Here comes the countdown. Good evening, popular astronomers. It's Vicky here with Pop Astro Live. How are you on this wet and windy, depending on when you are watching this video, evening? It is a vile night here on Anglesey. We get the first of the weather, so excuse me if you see me huddled over my little electric heater here. Do give me a shout if my original 1980s vintage shell suit starts to smoulder as well, because I'll obviously be paying far too much attention to our fantastic guests that we have got this evening. So let's see, Paulina, good evening. Vicky, happy Friday, nice to see you again. Hello, Cosmo. Did you know that he's clinging to my microphone? Look. How cute is that? He's not only the telescope sloth, but he is also the microphone sloth and just the arm sloth, really. I've not had the courage to heat him up yet, but he has got those beans in him, but not very many. So I reckon he's probably only going to stay warm for about 10 seconds. Look what Cosmo is wearing. This is SPA Bling, which we will talk about after. Hello. Good. I need to resize my window here because it's microscopic. So just bear with me while I diddly-dee make one bigger, one smaller. Come on. There we go. There, now I can see what people are typing. Hi, Jeff. Good evening to everyone. Looking forward to tonight's show. Happy Friday, if somewhat damp. Good evening, Pop Astro Friday. Brendan, I never say your surname because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Scowler or Schooler, just let me know, please. Good evening, Ian Baker, Vicky and Team Astro team. Hi, Vicky, from a wet and windy Loch Lomond area. Don't know whether that was cultural appropriation, to be honest, so I won't ever do a Scottish accent again. So this is your show this evening, so please contribute in the chat room. I'm already getting too hot here. It's on 2 bars. Put it down to 1 and see what happens. So this is your show. We are the friendly society that encourages interaction. So please start commenting in the chat room, and if you're a newbie to astronomy, ask any question that you fancy, no matter how basic you think it might be. There are bored astronomers on standby waiting to answer your questions. So then, with every share of this video, so basically when you share stuff, Facebook has got algorithms and it deems how popular a video is within its first 10 minutes. So I hear. And when this video starts to share, it flags up with the Facebook algorithms that it's a popular video and therefore propagates it even more. So this first couple of minutes of this show is really crucial. If you are a regular viewer, it would mean the world to us if you could just hit that share button, flourish the SPA exponentially around onto other people's timelines, and you never know, you might ignite somebody's everlasting love of space just from hitting that share button once this evening. And also, I have it on good authority that with every share of this video, a new replacement for Arecibo is green lighted. So it pays to share the video. So what have we all seen in the sky this week? I have seen, drop it in the comments, please let me know. Maybe you've got to do a couple of minutes imaging in between the stormy clouds. I saw, I think it was the full beaver moon, which was very exciting, very bright in a very black Anglesey sky, a bit like my backdrop. I've seen a few bright red, very angry sunrises. I reckon they were furious that they had to get out of bed on such a cold and windy day. So we are helping out Santa this evening. We're going to use science, guys. We're going to use science to try and help Santa out. It's our Santa Conundrum. So Santa, there's various sources, they all say different things, but we're going to help Santa out with his conundrum. So please start dropping it in the chat room how you think we can help him. But here is the problem. Santa has 31 hours of Christmas to work with, thanks to different time zones and the rotation of the Earth. Assuming he travels from east to west, of course he would do that. Astronomically correct, of course. Now I've just cut and pasted this off the internet. You can argue with me till you're blue in the face, but this is what the internet says. So he's got 31 hours to work with. It works out at 823 visits per second. So that is to say that for each Christian household with good children, Santa has 1/1000th of a second to park, hop out of his sleigh, jump down the chimney, fill the stockings, distribute the remaining presents under the tree, eat whatever snacks has been left. Actually, we need to do a calorific breakdown for Santa, assuming there's a mince pie in every single house as well, and a carrot for Rudolph. Get back up the chimney, get back into the sleigh, and move on to the next house. Assuming that each of these 91.8 million stops are evenly distributed around the Earth, we are now talking about 0.78 miles per household, a total trip of 75.5 million miles. I couldn't do it in kilometers. I'm so sorry. Not counting stops to do what most of us must do at least once every 31 hours, plus feeding, etc. So this means that his sleigh is going to be moving at 650 miles per second, 3,000 times the speed of sound. Now, actually, that obviously is a lot slower than the speed of light, but it's fast enough that the air resistance might vaporize Santa along with all of his gifts. But the great news is he's riding a magic sleigh that won't vaporize. Maybe the sleigh is made out of plasma. Just have some fun now and drop some suggestions out as how we can help Santa. I'm going to throw an extra curveball in there. Every one of those millions of children wants to get a telescope down the chimney as well. What are we going to do to help Santa? So in the meanwhile, while we are puzzling, oh, let's have a look. Has the moon been brighter than usual? Maybe the skies have been really clear and maybe it was a super moon. Oh, I don't like it. There's knocks at the window. I think it's the Christmas lights banging. Maybe the moon has been brighter because the skies have been clearer. Why would the moon be brighter? Closer? I don't know. New glasses. Great view of the ISS. I've not seen the ISS for ages. That is the International Space Station. Not a lot. The moon and Uranus. I've only ever seen Uranus for a fraction of a second, really, really briefly, but I'm convinced that it's kind of like milky green, like a cat's eye out there in space. I've seen lots of clouds. Me too, Catherine. Oh, thank you, David, for the nice comment. Hi, Vicky from David in Bath. Thank you. That's really kind of you. Good evening from deepest Wiltshire. Hi from Robin. Robin and Paul from the SPA are watching. Thank you so much for all of your help this week, Paul. You know I've had a crazy week making 14 Christmas shopping videos out. I'm going to get in trouble now. Going to get in trouble. I've had, obviously, as a self-employed video blogger, you can imagine that commissions haven't really been flying in thick and fast over the past couple of months, but I got a really wonderful commission to make the 12 days of Christmas videos for Bangor Town Centre, Bangor being the town just across the Menai Strait. So me and my puppet Krempog, I've been out as a one-girl puppet show this week, making, I think I've done about 10 of the videos so far, and now this live astronomy broadcast. So if I seem slightly hyperactive, let's not blame it on the mince pies and coffee. Let's just blame it on pure excitement to be doing the show. So now we're going to go over to our first guest. It is Dr. Sue Bowler, editor and writer with a 30-year history in science research and communication. So for 24 years, Sue has been editor of the Royal Astronomical Society magazine A and G. So we're going to come over to you in a moment, Sue. In 3, 2, 1. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Vicky. How nice to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice. How are you and where are you this evening?
I'm in Yorkshire, as always. I don't feel like I've left this room for the past 9 months, but I must have been out to buy food and things like that. Yeah, and I'm very well. Bit of snow, you know.
That's very festive.
Lots of clouds.
Yeah. Have you got a telescope, Sue?
Yes, I have. Although I have to say it does tend to be cloudy in Yorkshire, so I'm not a great one for going out and looking through it.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a exquisitely cloudy season recently, hasn't it?
It has, yes. And it's such a shame because there is nothing, absolutely nothing like a clear sky, a clear, dark sky where you can just feel you're part of the universe. It's great.
I think we should maybe sign one of those change.org petitions about cloudy skies. Who do we petition about this thing?
Well, it doesn't really matter for all the difference most of those change.org petitions make. So,
oh God, I've signed some. And when you sign one, you click the box by accident, and then it signs you loads of other petitions that you think you might be interested in, and you kind of just get dragged into, I would say, a lot of conspiracy theory with some of those blooming petitions.
that sounds fun.
Brilliant, Sue. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. As I was researching you, you have got a really long and distinguished career that just made me, as an astronomy communicator myself, I was like, right, I really need to pull my socks up, get a move on, and try to match Sue's incredible prowess. So give us a little background about who you are and what you've achieved in your magnificent career. And I'll put you on full screen now, okay?
Okay. Well, I started out in astronomy in the year before I went to university. I got a job at the Royal Greenwich Observatory at Herstmonceux Castle, which was really interesting, actually. I mean, I did learn to play croquet, which is always good. But apart from that, it was at a time when computers were just beginning to be used in astronomy, and I was dropped in the deep end with that. It was basically, oh, can you program? No? Oh, well, the computer's over there. The computer was the size of an average living room. You just learn something. And of course, we all worked on terminals. And if you made a mistake, the whole computer slowed down while it tried to work out what you were doing. So, you know, there was I pecking away, learning a bit of Fortran, and every time I made a mistake, everybody around the whole lab, I think, was sort of saying, oh, what's happened? So I persevered, you know, and it was really good. You know, I was doing, modelling the ground effect of the Parkes telescope and modelling the frequency of supernovae and all sorts of stuff like that, trying to persuade the computer to draw a map of the sky. Now, I nearly got there with that. But that was really, really interesting. I never saw a telescope, none of the big telescopes when I was there. What I did see, though, were one of the great sky surveys, I think it was the Palomar, with 18-inch square glass negatives. And you got them out of the box, and there are all these teeny little dark galaxies on them.
Oh, nice.
That was a bit spine-tingling because you think, oh, there's something out there. And that was great fun. Really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So after that, I went to university, discovered earth sciences, did a bit of research in Scotland, did a bit of research in the Alps, pottered along a bit trying to work out how mountains formed, and then went to work for New Scientist as their earth sciences editor, which was a bit of an eye-opener. The whole of the earth, the oceans, the atmosphere, everything. Did that for a bit. Started doing university teaching, bits of freelance work on different magazines, had my daughter, and then saw this advert for the RAS wanting to sharpen up their magazine. So I did that.
So let's just have a little outline of what the RAS is, please.
Well, the RAS is a learned society, so it's very distinguished, 200 years old, been going since 1870, and it publishes research, it holds meetings, and nowadays it sort of tries to represent the interests of not just astronomers, but also geophysicists. So we've got people working from the center of the Earth to the edge of the known universe. We have a lot of very distinguished amateur observers. It's not all professionals. And we have members all around the world. So we try to be a bit of a voice for that sort of astronomy, geophysics, planetary science, solar terrestrial physics. Great fun.
So tell us about the magazine that you edit then.
This one.
Hey, very good.
This is very much my baby. It didn't exist when I started working for the RAS. We had a little tiny buff-coloured quarterly journal, which many people loved, but the society thought if we don't do something to look a bit more up to date. We're not going to get any more members. So they appointed me, and I came up with what I thought a members magazine should be, and this is it. So it is for our fellows, but for a lot of other people. It's got articles about all the sciences the RAS covers, and my idea with them is that they're a way to keep up. You know, you'll read articles in other areas so that you know what's happening in other areas of science, which is seems to go down okay. Plus we have articles about what the RAS is doing, you know, the great stuff that we've been doing for our bicentenary, all sorts of stuff like that. So I really have the dream job. I go out, I talk to researchers, I visit them, I go to meetings, I ask them what they're doing and why, and I persuade them to write about it for me. And then I, you know, make it look good with my production editor. And, you know,
so give us
something that people like.
Give us a little leaf through the magazine then.
What have we got in here? Well, we've got lovely news pages with lots of nice pictures.
That's very high gloss finish.
Yeah, it is a bit, actually. I'd like it to be less, but a bit of a compromise. We have obituaries of distinguished fellows. We have articles here written by me about the Phosphine discovery in Venus.
Oh, nice.
We have articles about what the RAS does, the policy. Nice one here about potential of astronomy for development. Good things it can do in Africa, for example. And a nice one about the contribution of radio astronomy to the discovery of dark matter way back when. So all sorts of things.
So, so how would we get our hands on a copy of this magazine? I want one.
Well, you could become a fellow of the RAS. You could take out a subscription, which is discounted for members of other related societies. You could look in a library. That's about it, really.
It looks fantastic. So let's change the subject slightly now, and thank you for explaining to us what you do. What's getting you hot under the collar about astronomy at the moment?
Well, there's a lot going on, but the thing that is really stretching my brain a bit at the moment is gravitational waves, because yes, ripples in space-time, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey Doctor Who stuff. And this is utterly fascinating. Not only the technology they've had to develop over more than 4 decades to be able to pick up, because they are ripples in space-time, because they come from big concentrations of mass accelerating round in a circle, but they're tiny. You're actually looking at a wibble, if you like, that's about the size of the thickness of a human hair, but it's in the distance between here and Alpha Centauri. So you've got to be going some to detect it. But the thing that really gets me about this is that it's discovery science. We have found, I say we very loosely, we have found lots of binary black holes, and we find them because when they coalesce, which they do about once a week with the technology that we can detect with the technology at the moment, they send out this little chirp of energy, which isn't a sound, but it's actually at sound frequencies. It's a wave in space-time. But we found all these black holes that we didn't know were there, with masses that we didn't think they should be, 20, 30, 50, 60, 80 solar masses. And people don't know how they got to be there. They shouldn't form from the collapse of stars. They're too big. So are they primordial black holes left over from the Big Bang that have just been quietly coalescing all the time? We didn't know they were there. It's brilliant.
That's the first time. That's the first time I've been stunned into speechlessness.
Oh,
and just absorbing that. Wow, so tiny, like hair's breadth gravitational waves. Because, like, you think from the size of the detectors that these are going to be like big tsunamis coming through space.
The detectors are just about big enough to detect them, and even though they're these long tubes, 4 kilometers long, and you're just doing what the Michelson-Morley interferometer did. You're comparing the length of one arm with the length of the other one at right angles. You're comparing how long it takes laser light to go through them. But it's not just 4 kilometers. They have mirrors and they send the light back and forwards loads of times to make them even longer. And we can only just detect these.
Paul Sutherland is saying, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, at last some proper scientific jargon.
Doctor Who is somebody I would commission like a shot.
Wow, they should be hiring you as a researcher on Doctor Who. I could imagine you'd come up with some great ideas.
Oh, don't tempt me.
Wow, that'd be amazing. So I'll be the new Doctor. You can be my writer.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's going to work. I've petitioned for ages that I should be the next Doctor Who.
Well, yeah, and then we could have lots of assistants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I need to have. I can't remember. Jeff I've thought about this a lot. Jeff Goldblum's my assistant.
Yeah. No, he'd be good. I could write some brilliant lines for him.
That's it. Right. Okay. Now, speaking of creative kind of outreach, I do content writing, and I'm a broadcaster. It's a great career for anybody looking to get into it. So tell us a little bit about the career path for anybody who might want to get into astronomy writing and broadcasting.
Oh, yes, I mean, I think the main thing with that is to do it. However you want to be communicating, get started, even if you're doing it on a website of your own. But think about getting some feedback and getting some ideas, because you will have ideas, but you need to know how they come across to anybody else. So try and get them out to other websites. Think about your local newspaper, any sort of community things, and get some feedback, right? Ask, do your thing, communicate in your way, and then see what people like and what people don't. And that can be really quite hard to do, because you're sort of putting yourself out and saying, hey, criticize me. But it is the only way to learn.
Yeah, actually, I guess because I'm in the SPA is voluntary, and this is I can't do serious. I'm a human cartoon, I've deduced, and so this is me using the lovely platform and the very kind generosity from the SPA to do this voluntary broadcast, to help me find my voice, to help me to develop as a broadcaster. And there are plenty of voluntary organizations that you can cut your teeth on to do your own outreach and I think it's important to find your own voice and to broadcast and to relate to people in a voice, a warm voice that they love, that's unique to you and that makes you stand out and pop off the page. What do you reckon?
Oh, no, I think it's essential, because there isn't a plan, a template. And if you try to say, well, I will do this, and it's boring, right? It doesn't, you have to have enthusiasm and passion, because that is what people relate to. But there's loads of opportunities for finding out what people, not so much what people like, but what you can do with your enthusiasm and your passion that works. So go and talk to people. There's lots of astronomy evenings and events. There's lots of star parties. Get out there and, try things out. Talk to people. Explain the thing that grabs you, that takes you off into the universe. And if they look at you blank, try something slightly different. Get that two-way conversation going, because that will teach you how to get your ideas across to a much wider audience. So just do it, really. Yeah,
just start doing it. And there are so many creative outlets, and get creative with it, have fun with it, develop your own voice. That's basically what I've done.
Well, it's the only way, because you can only be you, really. And
yeah.
In this sort of communication, enthusiasm and authenticity really matter. You can't really pretend, that you like space if really it just makes you want to drop your head on the floor. You've got to go. You've got to be yourself, be out there.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. And there's so many people doing so many jobs that make them drop their head on the floor. And for me, I've decided that space is what I love. It's where my creativity flourishes, and that's where I want to work. So this is my call out to the universe. This show is basically, I'm here. Oh, Sue, thank you so much. Yeah, and where can we follow your work? Should we desire?
A&G, basically.
A&G.
Look at the RAS. I put a lot of things. I have a sort of fellows blog that I run on the RAS website, so I'm usually writing there.
Brilliant. Okay, Sue. Well, we're going to get back to our Santa conundrum about how he's going to get around the planet at thousands of miles per second. What about reindeer and Gsuits? What do you reckon?
Oh, I think they would, yeah, but they might be invisible. You know, it's always possible.
I love the idea of a reindeer in a Gsuit. We're going to give that more musings. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. Catch you later.
Thank you ever so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So obviously reindeer getting into Gsuits, you wouldn't want to put it on over their antlers, would you? That would just be problematic. So it's going to have to go zip underneath, I reckon, to get them into it. Good advice from Sue, which, oh, hi, Bob. I love your avatar. It matches my backdrop and all the constellations. Good advice from Sue, which covers all creative activities. Have I got my SPA magazine? It's on the other side of the room, actually. I'm sure that Robin is still editing the SPA magazine, and we're looking for an editor, which would be a great step up into the astro science publishing realm. Thank you for all of these fantastic comments. I'm absolutely loving them. Michael Barrett says, I write a monthly Sky at Night feature page in our parish magazines and get lots of questions. I always recommend they join the SPA if seriously interested. Great stuff. So let's see what we've got here. I have got, I've left it all on the other side of the room. Let me just, no, it's here. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. If you're stuck for a present for either yourself or any astronomer friends, our wonderful SPA merchandise is in the SPA shop now. We've got really good little models, which I've had a go at. Not for me, because they are tricky. I think you'd have to be an excellent model maker or a very enthusiastic child with great eyesight to make them. But the finished result is beautiful, like a sheet metal shuttle. These are in our shop. We've got so much good stuff, and we've got our beautiful jewelry as well, as modeled by Cosmo, the telescope sloth. That is a sundial, and my Anna Lemma necklace. Oh, and also we've got, I feel like Super Ted, astronomy t-shirts too, in the SPA shop. Right, that's that box ticked. On to our next guest. We are going to go across to David Eicher, an American. Oh, we've got an American person on. That's nice. It's not often we go transatlantic. More, please. More, please. David is an American editor, writer, and populariser of astronomy and space. He's been editor-in-chief of Astronomy magazine since 2002. I'll practice my salute for that one. He's also got a gorgeous new 3D book, Clouds in Space. So, David, we're coming to you any moment now. 3, 2, 1. Click the magic fingers. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Vicky. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all the way across the pond?
Wow, it's a big old pond.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's so nice. And what a great setup you've got there, with looking very learned.
Well, looking is the key word there. Yeah.
So whereabouts are you in America then?
I'm in Waukesha, Wisconsin, believe it or not, which is, if it's near Milwaukee. If you go and hit Chicago and take a right, you're right there.
I can visualize it right now.
Yeah. Not too far.
What latitude are you, and what's your weather doing at the moment?
43 degrees north and change, and it's an absolutely awful place for astronomy, but it's where the fellow who founded Astronomy magazine grew up here and went to school here. But we like to go elsewhere, away from the American Midwest, like to Tucson, to observe.
Oh, yeah. Have you been to Space Fest?
I have not. I was actually invited in the year in which it was canceled here because of the pandemic. So I hope to be there next year.
I went to, I think, Space Fest 7. I hosted Brian Cox and a panel of Apollo speakers onto stage.
Yeah.
So that was one of the highlights of my life. Carolyn Porco, Brian Cox. I hosted the hosts, and they were then doing an Apollo panel interview. Yeah. So I was the warm-up act for the warm-up act.
That's fantastic. That's a great group of people. Wonderful folks.
And
we need to get together with the Apollo astronauts while we still can. We just had a huge group of them at Starmus last year, and you know, they're not going to be around forever. So they're really a treasure for us to talk to.
So somebody here who obviously knows a little bit more about American sport than I do says Green Bay Packers country.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, the state religion of Wisconsin is essentially football, the Green Bay Packers. Yes, they take it very seriously here, American football.
Not soccer. Do you support the Green Bay Packers?
I do, yeah, yeah.
And what do you shout when they're going to get a touchdown? Do you have like a little chant for them?
Well, you generally shout anything you can, because I've seen actually close to 100 games in Lambeau Field in the stadium there in Green Bay, and it's usually so cold that you want to get up and stand up and shout anything you can to generate calories. But,
so,
you know, warmer than Pluto, but maybe not by much.
Warmer than Pluto. So,
yeah.
David, you've got a long, distinguished career, as did our previous guest, Sue. So tell us, so if I'm distracted, I'm on my own in a deserted laundrette here.
Yeah.
Which is where I get Wi-Fi from.
Well, I love your backdrop of the southern sky there. That's very nice.
Yes, it's beautiful. It was discounted on Amazon. It has spelling mistakes on it. If you know what the Large Magellan Cloud is, just let me know.
That's a little different than the one that I've seen, but it sounds like a relative to the LMC. Yeah.
So if I look slightly distracted sometimes, it's because I'm in a really remote place all on my own, and there's something tapping at the window, and I suspect it's the Christmas lights, but it is disconcerting, and I scare easily, which is why I've got a cuddly toy. So tell us about your career then, please, Dave.
Well, I was the son of a chemist, a professor of chemistry at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio there. And of course, so I grew up around a chem lab and you know, was very involved in science from being a toddler onward, but you never want to do, of course, exactly what your dad did. So I got interested in other sciences and really wanted to get into medicine. And then I made the mistake of going to a star party when I was 15 years old and saw Saturn through a telescope, and that was it. I was entranced and got a pair of binoculars and crawled out into what was a relatively dark sky behind our house and observed everything I could for a year, bought a Celestron 8, and went crazy with it. And I founded a little magazine that was called Deep Sky Monthly about observing galaxies, clusters, and nebulae. And it really coincided with the growth of people getting larger telescopes, the so-called Dobsonian revolution back in the 1970s, of being able to observe a lot of these fainter objects pretty well for the first time. So it did very, very well, and that led me to Astronomy magazine. I've been there for 38 years. If you hang around long enough, they put you in charge of things, and I've been the editor of the magazine for going on 20 years here, and have written 25 books, mostly about astronomy and allied sciences. So I've kept busy, either gotten into trouble or kept out of trouble by writing a lot of books and working on this magazine.
So tell us about your lovely new book. I will just take these captions off because they're going to interfere with the close-up of your lovely book. Well,
thank you for being shameless, for allowing me to be shameless. And I have two books that came out almost at the same time. So I'll very quickly plug them both if I can. Cosmic Clouds 3D is the second book that I did actually with my pal Brian May. And Brian, as you may know, is very, very much into stereoscopy and the history of stereo viewing and so on. And so we did a book called Mission Moon that came out of the Starmus Festival a couple years ago. And this is actually, that featured, stereo views of the Apollo missions and allied the space race and so on. This is very different because, of course, we don't have any stereo images of nebulae. They're too far away. But we met a guy who's an astro imager in Finland, J.P. Metsavanio, who creates these incredible, very well scientifically thought out simulations of 3D images of nebulae, the stellar birthplaces and areas where stars die, of course, as our sun will, as a planetary nebula, for example, of course, about 6 billion years from now. So this is chock full of the first simulations of deep space images done in stereo. And just to be completely shameless, I also, by coincidence, had a book that was a long time coming an idea about 40 years ago to write a sort of a comprehensive, illustrated, up-to-date book on galaxies. And that's just out from Random House as well. And of course, pretty much everything that we know about galaxies has changed over the past generation. So this is an update.
So you're not getting out of that easy. We need to see what's inside the 3D book, please.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there are lots of images, both mono and I don't know if you can see that. Okay. I'm trying to get it away from the light. There's the Spaghetti Nebula. Wow. But we've got lots of images, both of emission nebulae, where stars are born, of planetary nebulae, like on this spread in stereo and in mono, the end point of sun-like stars, of course, and of dark nebulae, of reflection nebulae, of other higher mass endpoints, like supernova remnants that when massive stars explode, they create, and so on. So there are a couple of hundred images in here, both stereos, and we have this lovely sort of 3D cover that Brian designed. And it's all because I wrote the book and Brian was the creative director, and our pal JP is really the guy who did the heavy lifting with the imagery here.
So what do you need to view this with then?
Brian has designed an OWL viewer, that is a stereoscopic viewer that's really a modern update of the one that from the middle 19th century, the original stereo viewer. And you get a little light owl, it's called, right in the back of the book here. So it comes along with the book, a viewer, or you can get a larger, slightly more sophisticated one. Of course, Brian's London Stereoscopic Company, you can Google that and find the website. They have all of the stuff that you need to view these books, the astronomy books that Brian and I have done, and also many books on English history and other things that Brian's done with his other collaborators.
How do I get Brian May as a guest on Pop Astro Live?
He's pretty busy these days doing a bunch of things, but I can certainly mention it to him. He's right now, Brian is a guy who almost never sleeps, and he's got about 1,000 projects going on simultaneously.
If you want something doing, ask a busy person. So I'm sure he's got plenty of time for us.
Right.
Well, that would be lovely.
I'll certainly keep this in mind next time I talk to him.
Great. So where can we get this book from then? Are they available on Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon.com. And, you can order it from the LSC website, but it's available both in the UK and the US and everywhere else on Amazon.
Okay, David, it's been wonderful speaking to you, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime soon, because we're trying to get regular guests coming back.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you and to be on, and I'd be happy to.
Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you. And good luck with the book. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. That was cool. That was a cool book. And I did not know that Brian May had a stereoscopic company. That's pretty cool. So we're doing the Santa Conundrum tonight. The answers are tickling me. Tickling my little funny bone. Santa's sleigh is going to be going at thousands of miles per hour, and it might just vaporize. So we have had suggestions such as using shuttle tiles, or maybe he's going to reverse the rotation of the Earth like Superman. Reindeer in Gsuits. Keep the funny suggestions coming, because they are amusing me. So we are coming up to our third and final guest now. Oh, first of all, sorry, I'm just going to say, please do consider joining the SPA or buying a membership for somebody else. We are a voluntary society, and it would mean the world and the universe to us if you could join. It's £23 a year. You get our magazine every couple of months. A labour of love for Robin. Still looking for an editor, by the way, if you want a foot up into the Astro publishing world. And all of the yummy SPA goodness that you can handle. So we're going over to our third. Let's have a look. Just Brian is an honorary member of the SPA. That's great. Maybe he's watching this. Yes, it is amazing how many people start the hobby after seeing Saturn for the first time. It's like seeing a superstar, isn't it? When you see Saturn for the first time, you've seen it on that many programs and that many pictures, that when you actually see it down the eyepiece, it's like a famous person's walked into the room. I can never quite get over that kind of disconnected feeling that you get when you see Saturn live for the first time. Right, we're going to go over to Will Gator. He's been sat waiting patiently, listening to me from 8 o'clock. And we're coming over to you now in 3, 2, 1, Mr. Gator.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, Will, how are you this evening?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Always amazing. Always. I've got my head full of stars. I'm always amazing.
I know, that backdrop is amazing.
I'm just looking at yours, actually. What have you got going on in there?
It's all going on. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. Don't look at anything below sort of this level.
Did you have a quick tidy up before?
Yeah, I did. I've been writing a feature at the moment for Scarlet Night magazine, so there's just been paper and notes and mugs, empty mugs everywhere. So,
is it an SPA mug though?
It's not actually. It's a bit of a boring one. It's a blue one. I did have a solar system one, but that's gone missing.
So you need an SPA mug by the sound of it, don't you?
I do. Is there a shop I can get one?
There is a Pop Astro shop where you can blow all of your magazine commissions.
Yeah.
Which you can just be like SPA kitted out. You know, it's just great. We've got so much good stuff, Will. Maybe a nice little jazzy SPA necklace.
Excellent.
So whereabouts are you this evening then?
So I'm in Somerset. So in the southwest, and it's cloudy.
I'm going to test your brain now. Can you remember the last time we met?
I think, was it at the Northwest Astronomy Festival?
Bingo! Well done.
It was. I think it was.
I had a cowboy hat on, so I was very conservatively dressed.
Yes, I remember.
That was good, wasn't it? And do you remember the proposal?
I do, yeah. Gosh,
Jonathan
how many years ago is that? Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago. Mind you, everything seems like a lifetime ago. After this year. You
were on the panel, weren't you, at the front? And Tracy Snellis, hi Tracy, miss you, was on the panel, and it was astronomers' question time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And great the microphone went to Jonathan David Harty from North Wales Astro, and his question to Tracy was, will you marry me?
Yeah.
What a great way to propose to an astronomer.
Brilliant,
Best of all, I caught it on camera.
Did you?
I was the real star of the show. Yeah, it was fantastic. Nice. So tell us what articles you've been writing, Will. What's hot in astronomy at the moment?
Well, the feature I've got in Scarlet Night magazine this month is all about what's happening with New Horizons at the moment. So quick recap, if you know, NASA's New Horizons mission has been traveling out from Earth since 2006. It's been exploring the outer solar system, and its primary target was Pluto, of course, which it flew by in 2015, and then it went on further out into the Kuiper Belt to an object called Arakoth, which is a very, very primordial object that's quite a bit farther away from the sun than Pluto was. There's been just this extraordinary deluge of data that's come back from the mission, and scientists have been picking over it and sort of looking through this data. But at the moment, in the next couple of weeks, they're actually planning to switch on the camera, one of the big cameras on New Horizons, and turn it out into the sort of darkness and look at some of the more distant Kuiper Belt objects out there in the outer solar system. And it's going to do some amazing things. These observations are going to tell us a huge amount about some of these very, very primordial, very, very primitive icy objects that are kind of lurking out there in the darkness.
So what do they think they are then? Where they come from?
So a little bit of a sort of recap 101 of sort of solar system science. So the Kuiper Belt is this region beyond Neptune, that's where Pluto basically sits within this Kuiper Belt. And the main sort of region of the Kuiper Belt that New Horizons has been exploring is part of what's known as the kind of cold classical Kuiper Belt. So these are objects that have basically been there in these positions for the last 4.6 billion years. They haven't moved position, they haven't had their orbits sort of perturbed. They are simply the objects that kind of formed and coalesced out of the protoplanetary disk that all the planets formed from. So they are, when we talk about these being primordial and primitive, that you literally can't get anything in terms of an object of this size. You can't get anything older. They are like these time capsules from the beginning of the solar system. But what's happening now, and by the way, Arakoth was one of these cold classical objects.
Ooh, I'm pulling my amazed face while you're talking, which is why I've switched the camera on, because I'm just going,
Yeah, it's completely mind-blowing, isn't it? It's, you think that you've sort of seen everything. Certainly when I've been writing about this stuff, you hear about what New Horizons is doing, and it's absolutely extraordinary to think that these objects are sat out there. I mean, there's so much that we don't know about the solar system. You know, we think of the planets as being, you know, the things to explore, but there's this entire region, and that I think is why this next phase of the mission is really quite exciting, is because we're getting a chance to see some of these objects which could kind of fit in the next pieces in the puzzle, if you like. So one of the things that astronomers on the mission want to do is they want to kind of get an understanding of whether some of the objects they've been looking at are typical of these objects out there, because you don't want to start making conclusions about the kind of entire history of the solar system based on a tiny sample. But when I spoke to scientists on the mission for the Scarlet Night magazine article I've written for this month's issue, in the December issue, one of the things they said is that what's important about these observations is the context they're providing. So they're going to tell us things like the shape, potentially, of a small number of these Kuiper Belt objects that are really much further out. We might even start to understand like surface properties, how sort of clumpy and fluffy the surface is. You can actually measure this just by seeing the light, just by seeing these tiny flecks of light on the sensors of the camera. You can actually make these really quite profound discoveries.
Is the Kuiper Belt, is it a shell or is it a disc?
So there's a kind of, if you have to kind of imagine the Kuiper Belt is actually different sort of populations within it. So what I was talking about, the cold classical Kuiper Belt, that is kind of like the remnant of the protoplanetary disk. So it's roughly in the kind of plane of the solar system, if you imagine. So it's kind of an extension of the line of the planets outwards into the distant outer solar system. But then, and this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier when I talked about these other objects, there's a population of the outer Kuiper Belt called the scattered disk objects. And what astronomers and planetary scientists think these are early in the solar system's history, there was a lot of migration of the giant planets. In fact, in some of the models, the biggest planets, Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, some of them actually swapped positions in their orbits. And all this caused absolute pandemonium, chaos in the early solar system. But what it meant is that as, for example, Neptune migrated to its position we see it today, its gravity flung some of these objects out into the outer solar system, and they became these objects on very sort of perturbed orbits, and they are much more inclined to the plane of the solar system than the things like Arrokoth and these cold classical Kuiper Belt objects. So when you were asking about the shape, this kind of population kind of blends into, in a way, the cold classical belt. And my understanding is that the Kuiper Belt actually, it doesn't so much kind of stop, it just sort of fades into what we might call the Oort cloud, which is this extraordinarily distant reservoir of like trillions of icy sort of comet-like objects. So in terms of when you're asking what shape it is, it's probably more like a disk that blends into a shell, if that makes sense.
Disk that blends into a shell, blends into infinity. Wow, so comets come from the Kuiper Belt, don't they?
Yeah, so there are different populations of icy objects. I mean, I think one of the interesting things that's emerging now in planetary science is how little of a kind of boundary there is between a lot of objects. I remember when I first started reporting on space stuff, there was quite a lot of a differentiation between, you know, like an asteroid and a comet. You know, asteroids were always rocky, dry things. Comets were these icy, water-rich, carbon dioxide ice-rich things. But now we see these populations of things in the inner solar system, these main belt comets, and you have active asteroids that are kind of developing tails and things like this. So yeah, in terms of you know, these different objects, you find them in different places all throughout the solar system, and sometimes the same kind of thing has got a different name. So yeah, interesting.
That's twice tonight I've been speechless when Sue was chatting about gravitational waves being teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's amazing, that, isn't it?
And then you talking about Kuiper Belt objects, which actually is not an area of expertise of mine. So one of our wonderful viewers, Brendan, says, Will has got a cool Astro office, perfect for a lockdown. What's your favourite area of astronomy, Will?
Oh God, that's putting me on the spot. What is my favourite area of astronomy? I really do like planetary science. I mean, certainly to write about, I really enjoy planetary science. I think because it's one of those things where you maybe not get an intuitive sense of what you're talking about or what we're interacting with. I can talk to you about the surface of a planet, and you can, in your mind's eye, kind of imagine, if I talk about the fact that, Pluto has these ice mountains made of water ice that are floating on nitrogen ice. I mean, you can kind of imagine that. But when you're talking about cosmology and things like that, if I say to you a galaxy is 400 million light years away, even I can't imagine that, those figures to me. So personally, I like writing about things that are a little bit closer to home. But yeah.
Actually, I'm for some reason slightly out of date with the latest news on Pluto and the cause of those incredible shards of mountains. What's the latest research saying?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about them is that when you look at them and you see something, when you hear these mountains of Pluto, you kind of think rock, Earth, you can think of mountains on Earth, but on Pluto, everything's kind of a bit weird. It's kind of, a strange composition. So these mountains are actually water ice. They're made of water ice, and they kind of float on these nitrogen planes. So when you see this white stuff in these images, a lot of that is nitrogen ice. And then in like the pictures of Pluto, you've got these very red colors. So these are things that are probably organic molecules. Things that got carbon, things called tholins, which are like these carbon-based chain molecule things. So yeah, it's a fascinating world, really. I think one that a lot of people want to go back to and explore in more detail.
Right. Okay. Wow. Yes. Pluto is certainly packs a punch, doesn't it? So what? Weather forecast says no, but the Geminids say go.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting actually, because usually, you see these stories in the media, you see about shooting stars going to light up the sky, and it's like a firework display. And most meteor showers aren't like that. They're much more quiet affairs. You might be lucky if you see a few every hour. But the Geminids really is the best meteor shower of the year. There's a potential. Yeah, very much so. The problem is of course it occurs in the sort of heart of winter. It's cold, and obviously in the UK it's often rainy and wet in sort of mid-December. But this year, if the skies are clear, the conditions are pretty much perfect. I mean, the moon's right out of the way. Potentially you could, I ran the numbers this afternoon. I have a little spreadsheet where you just drop in the numbers for the meteor shower predictions that year, and based on sort of like the what's known as the naked eye limiting magnitude of your sight, so basically how faint a star you can see. I worked out that on average, and this is a huge caveat, on average, if you could see the whole sky on the night or the sort of early morning hours of the 14th of December, you might be lucky to see 80 meteors an hour on average. That assumes you can see the whole sky, which of course people, can barely see maybe half the sky. So half that number, so maybe 40 meteors an hour, which is pretty good for a meteor shower. If the skies are clear, of course, they have to be completely clear for that number to hold. But yeah, it's a potential for a really nice year this year.
You just never know. And let's have some meteor watching tips for the winter and the best way to position yourself and how to watch them.
Yeah, well, I think with meteor astronomy, I always say that it's best to be as relaxed as possible. It's one of those things where if you can, I suppose, at this time of year with everything that's going on, you need to do it in a socially distanced way. But I always reckon getting in a group, of people and having more eyes on the sky, so you can actually, see more meteors and things like that. But yeah, wrap up warm is always the thing. I always say it's always, having warm feet. That's the bit that always always gets cold first.
I know.
Decent warm shoes, and pretty much that's all you need. If warm clothes, and that's all you need. Just look up. I mean, people sometimes talk about what direction to look, but really with meteors, it's pretty random. The main thing is don't really look at the radiant, which is the point in which on the sky in which the meteors appear to come from, because generally you only see very short meteors close to the radiant. If you want to see the big long ones, you have to look sort of 45, 90 degrees away, sometimes even further.
Have you ever seen a meteor from head on?
Pretty close, yeah. I've done like there was a Leonid peak some years ago where I had a pair of binoculars and I was kind of watching and looking around the radiant through binoculars. And sometimes you can see these flashes and you never quite know whether you're seeing a satellite flash these days, because of course satellites can glint. But during some meteor showers, yeah, if you sort of look with binoculars close to the radiant position, you can sometimes see head-on meteors that just kind of like, they're just like a little dot flash.
They're like a full stop in the sky, and I have seen two with the naked eye. It's weird.
Really? Yeah, yeah. It's crazy to think that they're all coming through the atmosphere on parallel paths. You know, it's one of those weird perspective things, isn't it?
So, Will, I'm sure you're probably very well travelled. Can you think back to maybe some of the coolest things you've ever seen in the sky?
Ooh, meteor showers definitely up there. I mean, in terms of the things that sort of are kind of not super rare, but you know, I've seen some pretty good meteor showers over the years. Meteor peaks. I remember the 2010 Perseus? I think it was. It was a night of the Perseid meteor showers a few years ago, about a decade ago, where it was kind of like fireball heaven. It was just meteor fireball after meteor fireball, which is pretty cool to see. And yeah, that was pretty cool. Namely because the police turned up because I think I'd been out in this lane far outside of Bristol somewhere. I think I've been making too much noise as these fireballs fired over, and police car came up and.
How do you explain that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at the meteors, but yeah, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I've seen the Northern Lights and total solar eclipses. Those sort of things are just you can never really describe how incredible those sort of things are. The pictures, the videos sometimes do it justice, but when it's filling your vision and that sort of thing, quite extraordinary. Yeah.
Fantastic, Will. Right, okay, now I'm going to test you now, finally. Don't worry, not one of those tests. What are your contacts like in the world of radio astronomy? Because I've had an idea for Arecibo.
Okay.
The great dish that has fallen. Oh my gosh, it's like a broken dinner service, like someone's
terrible, isn't it?
As fine as China.
Yeah.
And my idea is that all the radio telescopes in the world turn to put their heads down, and well, they're silent anyway, but radio silence for 2 minutes in honor of a fallen comrade. And I need to find out how to do a change.org petition or who to speak to about it.
Maybe Jodrell Bank. A lot of telescopes have limits on how low they can look on the horizon.
Yeah, or maybe just they could all gaze at. This needs thought, Will, but some kind of gesture.
Yeah.
To bow and to fall silent, as it were.
I saw a rumor on social media. Someone was talking about selling bits of the telescope, bits of the crumpled telescope, to kind of raise funds for those people, which I thought was a good idea.
Wow! Yeah, oh my God, they'd raise billions of pounds.
Yeah, wouldn't they? Everyone, if they could help out to sort of raise funds for, I don't think a replacement, but maybe to help the people who have whose jobs have been lost and things.
I went to the inauguration of part of the square kilometre array at Jodrell Bank a couple of years ago. I was privileged enough to be video blogging it. Cool. And Jocelyn Bell Burnell was there, discoverer of the first pulsar. And do you know what they gave her? They gave her this amazing big metal key, and I've got video of her holding this key. And the key, now I might get this wrong, the bar on the key is 21 centimetres long.
Oh, yeah.
That's about hydrogen, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a radio signal of what's called the 21 centimetre line, which is the radio emission essentially from hydrogen gas in the Milky Way. Yeah.
So the barrel of the key also had the signature of the pulsar.
Okay, that's really cool.
It was made from the Mark I Jodrell Bank telescope.
Now that is a collectible. That is a collectible.
Yeah, how do we get into a house and nick it? Hope you've got that insured, love. So yeah, maybe we could have Arecibo. Yeah, whoa, that would I'm sure that would outsell SPA merchandise.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah, I thought it was a nice idea.
It's a great one, yeah. R.I.P. Arecibo. Will, it has been a delight having you on.
It was a pleasure.
Come back anytime.
I will. Yeah.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. What a great interview that was. So thank you for all your lovely comments. Oh, I should have put this on. I didn't see this comment, Jerry. How do you get to be an editor? I think looking at the stars must keep me young. I was wondering actually how old Will was. I'll have to Google his date of birth. If Will's older than me, you're looking very good, Will. You're looking very good. Comet Neowise must have been the best thing to have observed so far this year. Yes, it was beautiful. I got to see it for all of about 2 minutes over the rooftops of some fairly light polluted areas in Cheshire, but I did see beautiful Neowise. So we are coming to the end of the show. Please do consider joining the SPA. It's £23 a year. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. I've got to say an extra big special thank you to Paul Sutherland, who's helped me source my 3 wonderful guests this week. Thank you so much, Paul. For the first time in my life, I actually felt like I had a PA. So I'm going to aim for that. So good night, everybody. It's coming up to 9 o'clock. Like, tag, share this video far and wide across the universe. Good night from Cosmo, the telescope. Right, I'm getting tired now. I'm going to log off. My voice has stopped working. Wow factor guests in tonight's show. Big time wow factor. Suthers, you pulled it out of the bag for me. Same again next week. Do you know, I think we might have Paul Money next week. I think we might have Paul Money. Thank you for all your nice comments. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your lovely comments. Thank you for everybody. Yay, Paul. Yeah, Paul. Right. People are pinging me. They know I'm coming off air. The pub's shut. The pubs have shut in Wales. They've closed the blimmin' pubs. No alcohol sales. Not that I drink anymore because I'm doing an alcohol-free challenge, but my favourite pub is across the road, and I trek across there and go and see all my friends and drink alcohol-free beer. And every pub shut at 6 o'clock in Wales tonight. No alcohol sales. So that's a tough one to get our heads around. When I watch back these videos over the coming years, these little comments about what is happening in day-to-day existence will be a historic time capsule of going through lockdown together. I hope you're all bearing up okay. Please stay safe. There is COVID lurking in the vicinity around here on Anglesey. Some of the people at the holiday park where I live have got it. So that's a little bit too close to home. I'll catch you all later. Big love to everybody. Thank you so much. See you all later. Good night.